Hey, a pleasant good day, everybody. I hope everyone is doing well. This is Joe Borg from the Always Next Year podcast and Chasing the Pennant podcast. This is going to be my first video on our YouTube channel. If you like what we're putting out, please click that subscribe button at the bottom. But this is going to be my first video on the Always Next Year's YouTube channel. And this is going to be on three pitchers we're going to start off with that have to step up. And this is going to be a mini series I'll be doing on some videos of guys that have to step up coming into the season that are not like Aaron Nola's, Zach Wheeler's, and guys that we know, Segura's, Harper, obviously, Hoskins. We know all those guys, the core guys, have to be big part. But this one's going to be on three pitchers, and one's going to be a guy we've been waiting to finally show he can be a starter, Nick Pivetta. The other's going to be a guy I believe should move from a starter to becoming a good reliever in Vince Velasquez. And then the third pitcher in this one is on a guy that the 60-game season could potentially benefit the most, and that is Jake Arrieta, who's normally looked good in short stints early in the season, so obviously 60 could benefit. And we're going to start by going with Nick Pivetta, and we're going to first look at their 2008 statistics. When you looked at, or 2018, excuse me. So when you looked at March of 18, that was only one game Pivetta struggled. But April, in 5 games, he had a 2.79 ERA, which is really good. Then in 5 games in May, he had a 3.24. So he was doing really well. Then he did 7.71, 5.40, and 4.05 in August. So his pre-All-Star ERA was still a 4.58 because he went up so much in June. But he showed some really good signs then. And if we fast forward to this year, Pivetta's a guy in 2019 was able to, in March, he struggled. In April, he struggled. He did an opposite of last year. And in May, he struggled to be sent down, of course. And then in June, when he came up, he did decent. He had a 4.13, which is like a fourth or fifth starter ERA. In July, he had a 4.98. So last year, he was mostly struggling, except for when he got demoted and called back up. I was at this one game. When he pitched against the Cincinnati Reds, he was lights out. He was hitting his spots. His breaking ball was perfect. He even mixed in a changeup sometimes. And when he got called back up, he was 2-0 with a 1.80 since the recall from Lehigh last year. But then he again went back down to earth after that. So Pivetta's issues are not pitching well, like showing he can't be a starter, where Vince Moore doesn't show the ability to at times get into longevity of games, which we've shown earlier, where Pivetta, when he's actually has the control and ability to find the strike zone, normally can get past the fifth inning, where Velasquez has not shown that. That's why I feel Pivetta and his pitching profile is better to remain in the starting rotation. And the guy we're going to move on to now in Vince Velasquez profiles better to be in the bullpen because he just comes out. You can tell Velasquez is a guy that rocks off of the first couple innings of adrenaline and then kind of loses it a little bit. So in my opinion, he's a guy that would do best in the bullpen, but he, if we look at his splits, had a okay start in 2018. He had a high fours ERA, but he had no run support, but it was kind of like a fifth starter ERA. Then in May, he was lights out with a 2.30, struggled in June, was lights out in July with a .95. So he's shown some really good signs, but when you just look at Vinny with his innings pitch and his ability to get deeper into games, when I've seen Nick pitch at his best, especially at that Reds game, but I've been at other games where Pivetta's going six, I just seem to, for whatever reason of the luck or unluck of the draw, get in all the ticket packages a lot of Pivetta and Velasquez games, so I tended to see these guys a lot, and then also Arrieta. I tend to just never get the luck of the draw anymore with Nola and all that stuff. But you look at him this season, he killed it in April, as we know. He started off really good, well, last season, of course. And then in July, he also killed it, posting a 3.54, which is pretty good. But I just personally believe he's a guy that would be best suited in the bullpen. He comes out with a great fastball. He comes out with great movement on his pitches. He has a good breaking ball, but normally he has that issue middle inning where Vinny, yeah, he has control issues, but he also has control issues of getting deeper into games. Where with Nick, for me, it's more he has his control issues and honing in the strike zone. If he has the control that game and can hone in the strike zone, normally, in my opinion at least, he's a guy that's shown me he can get past the fifth and 5 1/3 in a normal season. Where Vince is a guy that's shown the adrenaline rush really does good at the beginning of, well, one, seasons, and two, starts. So that's something that I think would do best in the bullpen. Let him have a seventh inning and eighth inning role, and then maybe even big hurrah moment. Eventually, maybe he can even pitch some in the ninth for you if you need him to do that, because he does have the movement and ability with his pitches to do so. I just think at this point, with the inability to pitch, usually it's like after the third, if not the second, he starts teetering a bit. That would just play more as a bullpen piece. But now moving into our last and final guy, which is by far the most interesting in our $20 million a year guy, Jake Arrieta. Arrieta started off April pretty decent in his first year with the Phillies. 3.49 is solid, but the most remarkable thing in 18 was in May he had a .90 in 5 games in 30 innings pitched, which when I looked at that, I was surprised. I didn't realize it was that low either. So he absolutely killed it. Then had a lull in June with the 6.66 ERA in 5 games, and then at a 2.80 with 6 starts in July. So he bounced back, and then he, of course, had those knee issues, but also still had a 4.50 in August, and then really struggled in September with that knee issue to have his pre-All-Star be a 3.23 that year, and then his post was a 5.04. But on that entire calendar year, Arrieta finished with a 3.96. So obviously last season, he actually did pretty good for our Phillies in 2018, 2 seasons ago. And then last year in 2019, he did adequate at times, not as good as 18. 18, he was stellar at times, like I just highlighted. Last year, he did pretty solid at times where he started April with the high threes, then he went to more of a fifth starter ERA in 6 starts in May with a 4.50. So he had 2 solid months and then teetered off because of that bone spur. But those 2 solid months are really all you're playing this year. So if Arrieta is able to come out and have those 2 solid months for you, it seems like he's fully healthy. It seems like I saw him throwing when they showed the highlight on the field. I do agree that they should use the L screen when they're warming up on the mound. I didn't like not seeing them with that, especially after what happened with Tanaka, which everyone's happy to hear that he only has a minor concussion. But other than that, the guy looks like he's throwing when you saw it more fluently. Last year, even before the injury was announced, it seemed like there was just some kind of, I don't want to say, like, hesitation's probably a good word. Like, it looked like he wasn't fluent and as efficient through the zone when he was just firing that ball. Where now he seemed like that in warm-up. So I look for Arrieta, kind of like Shane said on a previous podcast, to really step up for us. But I would say his ERA would be more somewhere in the threes. I would say Nick's could be, I see him establishing himself with a looking better this year, but then he probably will be inconsistent. So high threes ERA at best, or low fours for a fourth to fifth starter ERA. I could see him establishing himself because 60 games with the way that kid can get adrenaline rush too, that could also really benefit him in terms of being a starter. And then when it comes to Vinny, I see Vinny benefiting the most out of the pen. We'll see what they do, but I think with some of these people that could be out, we don't know if Hector's going to be ready right away. He's supposed to be back soon. Tommy Hunter's out, and Ranger Suarez. I think that behooves you even more to put him in the pen. So I think Vinny should be in the pen, and in that case, I think he's going to kill it because I think he can do really well in the pen. And the highest his ERA will be is a 3.3 if he's able to be put in the bullpen right away. That's the highest I think it'll be. But we'll see what happens. I like all these guys to be guys that could step up for us this year, especially Arrieta with his track record of even in 19 when it wasn't as good but was still solid, especially in April, and then had a decent May that would be good enough to really help you, especially if Spencer Howard steps up in your rotation. And Noel is back at the park, so he's on track. The biggest question with the Phillies is what goes on with Wheeler, but that will remain to be seen. So this is my first video that's been on Nick Pivetta, Jake Arrieta, and Vince Velasquez having to step up for our Phils this year in order to be successful. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you really enjoyed it and enjoy our podcast, please click the subscribe button and also comment, and I'll try to get back to you when I can if you would like to comment. Have a great day, everybody, and a great week. Peace out.